Hey, what's up? I'm Naomi.
My name is Aaron.
We're Heard It Now, and today we're going to be reacting to Solange, and it's her new album, When I Get Home.
We're going to start with the first track, Things I Imagined. It's already starting kind of unique. It seems like it's her saying, I saw things I imagined looped over and over, and it's kind of like this bubbly instrumentation underneath.
To me, it sounds kind of like dreamlike, like you're like either falling asleep or about to fall asleep, or I don't know, just kind of like, but not even in a bad way, just like kind of like whimsical. You're gonna fall asleep or something.
I definitely agree. That's a good call because I'm getting the same type of feelings. Or like on a really good trip, like serenity, like floating on clouds type of feeling.
Yeah, because even though it's like the same, 4 or 5 words, it's like dreamlike. I don't know.
It started out saying, I saw things I imagined, and now she's singing taking on a lie at the same time that the music changed. So she's taking on the lie, meaning I'm assuming her relationship or what she thought her relationship was, assuming she's talking about a relationship, could be about something else. Like she saw a certain situation, ended up not being that. And there's like a moment of realization going on here.
That's deep. I liked how the music, it had started changing, how it had like that glitchy beat and it still had like the regular music. You could hear like the drums in there. I feel like that song was like an interesting way to start your album.
I definitely felt like an intro. Didn't really feel like a complete song to me, only because it was so lyrically bare. Just only had a few phrases in there. You still got a message out of it.
Up next is an interlude, S. McGregor.
So I'm gonna go ahead and push play on that interlude, S. McGregor.
I ordered a train, kissed all goodbye, and now my heart knows no.
That was interesting. I wonder where we're going.
She says now her heart knows no delight. So again, in the first song I said, she envisioned what I thought she was talking about a relationship in the first song. So when she says, oh, I took on the lie, and now maybe her relationship is not as it seems, now here right in the interlude, it's saying, and now my heart knows no delight. Now she's on this kind of like path where she doesn't really see love coming in her life because of whatever happened to her.
Up next, Down with the Click.
So far starting off pretty jazzy. Slow paced.
I got those like jazzy vibes from the beginning, from the very first song.
She derives her sound from jazz in general, from based off what I've heard in the past.
It's kind of beautiful.
That was cool. This is the second time that's come up where the music skips like that, like it's being put on repeat like a few times, like bum 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 bum, integrating those jazzy sounds that we were talking about earlier, which is more obviously a really old style of music, and kind of introducing some electronic elements with that skipping,
Yeah. That was a beautiful song. I actually really liked that.
I mean, I wouldn't exactly say it was one of my favorites, only because it was a little bit repetitive, but the repetitiveness of the lyrics don't really detract away from the overall song. Because it has these jazzy sounds that are kind of slow-paced anyways, it just kind of fits the mood, like mood music.
I like the mood it's setting. Up next, Way to the Show.
You can get it, you can get it.
I like that chorus. That was pretty catchy. That
you can get it.
Yeah, I like that. That was dope.
Yeah.
I like the keys that are in the back. They're a little funky. They remind me a little bit of some producers like Kaytranada kind of use like bendy keyboards. They have this key that's definitely bending in the back. Sounds really cool. This song's grooving for sure. Even though slower pace, it has a groove to it.
It's one of my favorites so far of what we've heard on the album.
You can get it, oh, you can get it.
To hear those, oh yeah.
And it's funny, like that happened exactly right when that moment crossed. I'm like, man, this song's really central. Like it kind of reminds you of like 70s porno music in a way. Just because the guitar's kind of like wah wonk, wah wonk.
Or is it because she's saying you can get it?
all of it, all of it. It's very sensual. I mean, I don't mind the mood. It brings you down. Like, I'm a very anxious person, so I mean, this kind of music kind of like cools me down a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I liked it.
I did think that the transition melodically right now that was happening was rather beautiful. Like, there's a slight change up, and that's one thing I've noticed in this music so far is that even though it's repetitive, they do introduce slight melodic changes. Like, just a slight change in chord progression, or a slight change in the way they're playing the music, or they're introducing new instruments and taking away others. So far in just a couple tracks we're listening to, I appreciate the attention to detail. The interplay between the drums and the bass is really old school. Like, it kind of reminds me of 70s music, like I brought up previously, like 70s soul music, 70s funk music. It actually is combining a few different genres in that way. Like, it's soulful, it's jazzy, and it has like this kind of funky guitar with this wah-wah pedal going on in the background. It's an intriguing listening for sure. Those gunshots in the background?
I was just gonna say that little noise. It sounds like you're loading a gun, and then they started doing the and it sounded like gunshots. So I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if that's symbolic or if that's just a production trick, like just to make it sound cool. I mean, because it does sound cool. Like, it does fit with the music rhythmically and otherwise. Because she's saying like, "Come and get it, come and get it." So I don't know if it's just like, "Come and get it, I want to shoot you." I don't even know like what's going on with the gunshots.
That sounds like you know. I actually really enjoyed that song. Like I said earlier, probably my favorite on the album so far.
I might agree with you on that one. Combined a few different genres, still taking from like a 70s influence, you know, combining soul with funk, with jazz. I wouldn't exactly say this music is forward pushing so much as it is genre bending, you know, combining a few different styles that we've maybe heard before and just trying to present them in a new way.
Up next, Can I Hold the Mic? Interlude.
Can I hold the mic? I would like to say too many lines, too many curves, too many twists, too many journeys.
That was it.
That was pretty cool. I like that. I like where that was going.
And for an interlude, it was pretty short, sweet. Like, it started off kind of like jokey, like, "Yo, let me handle the mic," and then all of a sudden it broke into this serious, "I can't be a singular expression of myself." I was just like, oh. I was like, all of a sudden this dramatic mood change, you know?
I like how it rhymed. Like, too many spaces, too many manifestations, you know, all that. Pretty cool. It was taking me somewhere.
No, it was a little hypnotic the way that she was flowing. I wish it would have progressed into like a bigger song, but maybe it might be connected to the next one.
Up next, Stay Flow.
Oh. Musically, it's already starting off probably my favorite instrumentation so far. It's popping, like, it's got me grooving, like dancing a little bit more than the other tracks did.
I thought you were gonna say, hold up. You know how it started out?
Down, down, down on the floor.
Oh.
Down, down, down on the floor. Take it on home and they feeling all the way.
Yeah, this song's sick, dude. Her melody, like, it's so catchy. The way that she's delivering these lines. I paused it like seconds in because I already like the instrumentation. And I'm telling you, whenever I do that, I have a feeling. And it's on record. You can look back at almost all of our reactions. If I pause it seconds in, I'm like, oh man, this instrumentation. Or, oh man, this beat or whatever. It almost always results in some of my favorite songs off the album.
Yeah.
Like, it's just something that clicks right away. Where you're just like, dude, this is catching my ear. This one got me. And then she just starts coming out with that kind of melody.
Mm-hmm.
It's so light. Her voice is so airy. Like, it feels like marshmallow or like clouds or something like that. Like, it's breezy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not so heavy. There's not a lot of growl or a lot of gruff in it. I like the repetitive use of down. Like, in the chorus and even in the verses, that word down's coming up a lot. Like, I like that.
I don't know why it's kind of reminding me of like a Christmas song a little bit. Like, giving me like a Christmas vibe.
There are some chimes going on in the back. Okay. Right here. Again, I mentioned earlier in the other track, small little attention to details where they keep some of the things constant, like the bass and the drums still kind of like poking through the same rhythm and the same beat, but all of a sudden there's a slight melodic change.
Yeah.
You know? Again, the small attention to details is really what's setting this album apart from a lot of the albums I've already heard this year. Really well thought out and really well crafted on the music side of things.
I really enjoyed the way her voice came out with those AAs. It sounded really nice.
So far, the production on this top notch. The way that they're layering her vocals is so good. They're actually also not just layering her vocals with the same effect. Some of her vocals are coming in clean, and some of them have that reverb on them. Creates this interesting dynamic where on one channel you have her kind of saying "a" on a little bit more of a raw, kind of like if she was almost saying it right next to you. And then on another channel you're hearing her "a" come in with that reverb sounding really expanded and like she's singing in a church or something, you're watching her on a stage. It's really interesting.
Wow.
That was a good song. That was my favorite song off the album. The beat was bouncy. It had this really interesting way of introducing the beat, like throughout like a key going bam, bam, and then the bass underneath would follow up with the rest of the rhythm, and your head kind of filled in the rest of that beat as well, like dun 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 dun. You know, it would kind of poking on the front of the beat and coming at the end of the beat with the bass underlying in between it, with her voice filling in that void left in between those rhythmic parts. You know, I thought it was a really well crafted song musically, really well sang on Solange's part. The lyrics were pretty good as well. The song was executed perfectly. Like, I really don't have any problems with it. This was a fantastic song. One of my favorites of the year, actually, so far.
Yeah.
Straight up.
I agree.
The next song is Dreams.
Dreams, dreams, dreams.
This isn't the first time that she's repeated her lyrics. It's an interesting approach. Puts you in a little bit of a meditative state after a while, like it's kind of trance-like.
Yeah, I feel really mellow right now.
Slow tempo, but her voice, again, so beautiful.
Actually, really am enjoying this song. I like when she said, "They come a long way, they come undone." Like, she changed it up a little bit and she said, "They come undone." Makes you think, like, where she's at.
There's still a sense of hope because the melodies are still so uplifting, but at the same time the lyrics, like you're saying, you know, switching it up and saying that they come undone. Maybe the things that she wanted aren't exactly shaping up to the way that they thought they were going to be. Disappointment or just overall letdown.
In a dark bassy tone, so I don't know.
Dreams come undone, and then the song ends like that, where it started off very airy and ended up in this disruptive mood where the vocals were kind of coming a little glitchy and the song was becoming a little bit more distorted, and like you said, just ended in this like fat distorted bass. It was an interesting song. Didn't say a lot, too little of expression of mood than it was like a well crafted song.
Up next, Nothing Without Intention, Interlude.
Nothing without intention.
Okay.
Interlude didn't really say too much in this case. It sounded like they're doing some kind of freestyle in the beginning, kind of like a fun little thing over a beat, and again broke up and introduced another element, and at the end kind of ended with what seemed like to be a message. And this isn't the first time. Like, her other interludes started off fun and then ended serious. The song right before it started off light, ended disruptive. What should be maybe serene and what should be perfect, maybe not being as perfect as the image that's being portrayed. Maybe there's some underlying negative emotions that Solange is going through, or maybe the people around her. That's not exactly clear.
Up next, Almeda.
The association with color was really cool. She was introducing every beginning break with a color. And in this case, it was brown, 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 and now she's going black, black, black.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Not even in that Florida water.
Definitely a switch up here. So those kind of like breakups they're doing with those drums. Like a snare or something comes in, breaks up these rather like beautifully sung lyrics, and all of a sudden you just have this drum break come in. And I think it's pretty cool.
Now I'm true, huh? What you wanna do, huh? Yeah, young nigga fresh from the start, huh?
Playboy Cardi's feature was interesting. I wouldn't say overwhelming or anything like that. Typical of what the Playboy Cardi sound that we've heard from his Dilate album. Just fun, you know? You want to say A at the end of every line that he says. A cool little change up compared to what was going on before. I mean, if there are other features before, like, we hadn't really heard them too much. Like, this is like probably the first song where there was like a proper feature taking over verses like this. Definitely like interesting to hear them going over some music that's Solange produced and her producers produced, only because it's so different than I feel like than any like someone like Playboy Cardi would ever rap over. So lush and beautiful, you know, and so piano driven. The outro sounded way different. Notice that a lot of her songs do have outros. I've been mentioning throughout this whole album how there's little melodic changes, but definitely something that's consistent is every single song is starting to have like this little change up in the outro, which as a listener I really enjoy. Like it makes me feel like I haven't heard the full song going 20 seconds in. With her, it's like I'm discovering more and more and more as the seconds go on, because I'm like, I don't know where she's going to take it. This is a good album so far.
I enjoyed the track. I feel like it had a lot of different elements. You kept saying like that it, you know, it sounded totally different than how it started. I agree with you on that. It just would take you to like a whole different spot. Like I feel like I just heard like 3 songs in one or something. And it was like a little bit long.
And even though the song kind of slightly changed, it's like it all carried along together. Like it didn't feel like it separated into 3 completely different genres or anything like that.
It was like really well blended together too. Like every time they would change it up, like you couldn't even tell. It was really good.
Yeah, the production has been amazing so far on this album. The next track is Time Is. So far, the beginning of this track is kind of staying within this certain musical boundary, spaced out. It's very slow pace. She's kind of just lightly singing some lyrics over it. There's really not too much going on. Yeah, it's definitely dragging on a little too long for me. The one thing I do like though is that the bass is kind of the one thing that's changing throughout the song. It's giving me the feeling that it's going to change up again. This isn't the first time that she's repeated lyrics. Like, you know, some of the songs earlier. In this case, it's not really warming up to me overall. But I do like right here that there's a musical change up, sounding a lot lighter and a little bit more rhythmic than it did earlier.
When she goes like higher with her voice, like that, like when they did this last change up, it sounded good. I kind of was like, oh, okay, finally. It was good. It was a nice change up.
Yeah. Like, it's almost like watching a baseball game or a soccer game as opposed to watching a basketball game. In the sense of, like, some of the biggest moments in those sports is when people score because it doesn't happen that often. And as weird as it sounds, it's almost like how I feel here. Like, it's so slow building that it's almost like when those transitions happen, you're almost relieved because it's different than what was before. You don't get that beautiful transition if you didn't set up the build-up. Wow, now there's 80s drums.
Happy that I at least liked the note that it ended on.
Yeah, the outro was actually badass.
Yeah.
There was like really cool moments in that outro. Right there it ended with like, yeah, and like these yeahs were interjected rhythmically that I thought it kind of almost had banger potential. Yeah, the outro to this song was great. Beginning, not my cup of tea per se. It just felt a little long. Like it felt like it took a long time to get to that point. It could have maybe just been trimmed down a little bit. Just because the lyrics are also repetitive, so you're asking the listener to follow along with you on your repetitive lyrics, your repetitive melodies, and at the same time, you're presenting very soft music behind it. So I was appreciative that it ended. Was appreciative that the outro was super rhythmic. Sampha's feature came in and his vocal tonality played off hers really well. It kind of got like a darker tones. First it got uplifted and then it ended on a little bit more of a disruptive note.
Up next, My Skin, My Logo, and it's featuring Gucci Mane and Tyler, the Creator.
Go hard in the pain. Gucci like to sway.
Gucci loves this.
This is Gucci's jam. He probably has this on loop.
Solange saying Gucci like to bang. Fuck yeah.
Down with the thing, got the feels. Gucci on the sheet.
Gucci coming down with the lame, got the feels. That was funny.
I didn't want a soccer, she had Gucci on her cleats.
I didn't want a soccer. She had Gucci on her cleats.
Gucci like
My skin, my logo.
That switch up was sick. That was awesome, dude. Like when Solange's vocals kicked in right there.
Yeah.
It just like boom, like with like a turn of a switch, just switched up. And they did that transition using these hi-hats really close together. And you're hearing one melody and you're hearing one, almost like it feels like a separate song almost. And all of a sudden these drums introduced and then you're into a separate part. But yeah, it still feels cohesive. Styler. There's little glitchy elements right there. That was pretty cool.
Was it just me or did her ooze there sound a little sexual? Made me
I-
laugh a little.
Yeah, me too. No, I definitely agree.
The song was good. I really I liked Gucci Mane's feature. I liked his yes, huns, womp. Like those had me like laughing there. But I overall like the song was good. I liked it. It was like a pretty chill song. And I liked the change up that it had at the end there.
This song, like the songs before it, had musical change-ups in it. Kept it interesting for me as a listener. Gucci Mane's part was interesting. I mean, I kind of felt like Solange kind of built him up so high that he's just not going to deliver on that because he comes in and it's not like he really stole the show, even though she was kind of building him up like he's going to come in and like rip this song to shreds or something.
Yeah.
Like Gucci Mane goes hard in the paint, oh Gucci Mane this, and then all of a sudden he came in and it wasn't like anything.
The whole intro was pretty funny just because, you know, how she's like talking about Gucci this, Gucci that, you know, and he's right there like, yeah, walk, yeah. Oh, like he's just like loving it because
Right.
he's, you know, he's like in there. Or like right after she's like saying Gucci this, Gucci that, and Gucci's over here like, I thought that was funny. Overall, like the song, I found it really like enjoyable. Like it had comedic aspects, you know. Even when she was singing it, she was laughing at some points.
All right, the next track, we deal with The Freakin', and it's Intermission.
Do you realize how magnificent you are?
Oh man, that confused the shit out of me. It was like taking biology all over again.
I wouldn't say there's really too much to say about that intermission. It sounded like some kind of speech or something of taken out of context and just saying that women aren't just sexual beings, but that they're the embodiment of God's consciousness. I mean, it's obviously some kind of spiritual thing, some kind of religious thing. Interject some kind of philosophy in there, which is fine.
Was this intermission necessary? Up next, Jerrod or Jerrod, not quite sure. You let me know.
Call me, baby, things I lived through.
The way that she projects her voice, like her oohs and ahs, they're so beautiful, and she can just hold a note, man.
Yeah.
Like every time.
Yeah, her vocal performance, top notch on this album. Beautiful voice. I will say that this song actually kind of gives me an 80s vibe for some reason. Like some of her other tracks kind of give me a 70s feel to them, whether she's touching on soul or jazz. In this case, I definitely have, for some reason, like an 80s sound.
I agree. There was a song earlier that we were listening to where the bass kicked in, and to me, it just kind of gave me those vibes.
Like retro keys, like OG synths, you know? Yeah, for sure. I'm getting the same vibes. Especially in this song. Even the keys that are playing the chords out, that, you know, that aren't playing the bassier notes, the melodies are playing and the keys, they sound like a little cheap in a way, only because it does sound dated. Like it sounds like OG synth. I just want to say that her vocal melody on this verse really catchy.
I really, really enjoy the That's really cool. I like how she did that. It's probably one of my favorites on the album. So it seems like she found the love again,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of giving me that impression a little bit too.
And it seems like the song's named after a male. We never heard the name
Right.
in the song, but I mean...
Yeah, like it's more like an ode to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Musically, I would say this wasn't one of my favorites. This song probably featured the least amount of switch ups in the sound. Didn't really have any features. Even though we've previously experienced her using the same lyrics repetitively,
Mm-hmm.
it's when she kind of does the melodies over and over and over again. With her, I don't really mind as much because her vocal performances are usually so good and the melodies are usually quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in this particular song, I just felt it was kind of safe. It didn't really go anywhere. Not a lot of switch-ups. So, I mean, for this one, it didn't really have a lot of impact for me. It did sound kind of blissful, though, as you were saying. Like, happier. All right, the next song is Binz. This track isn't doing a lot, but I kind of like it so far.
Yeah,
You know?
I enjoy her oohs and ahs, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's just beautiful oohs and ahs. The instrumentation, kind of spare, just a bass kind of poking in here and there with like a note. The drums are doing most of the work in this song. They're keeping it rhythmically going while melodically there's not too much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just basically carried by the drums and the voice so far.
A minute, I'ma feel this in my thighs, like even in it. Young summer, give me a minute.
Dude, that was a nice flow on Solange right
She's
there.
flowing, man.
Yeah, that was sick. If she penned those verses, that was also well written too. I just want to wake up to the suns in St. Laurent, $100,000 on the fronts and the blunts. It was a really cool written verse.
In the rose that's rented, windows tinted.
In a rose that's rented.
One line, a line.
The song was humorous. She had a catchy flow in this. The melody was pretty uplifting. Rhythmically, it was really interesting too. There was a lot of elements going on in the background. I would say this actually ended up being probably one of my favorite songs so far I've heard of this album.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of how jumpy it is.
Up next, Beltway.
Song so far is super atmospheric. It's a soundtracking you and your daydreams or something like that.
I don't know why she took me to like this whole different place where I'm like, I don't know why I pictured myself or like her in like a bathroom with like a vanity or something. I don't know. I don't know why, but I just like pictured her like singing this or something. I liked it though.
That was a good track. She did some of her rhyming within separate verses. This is a track that was kind of lyrically bare, a contained expression of emotion or mood than it was about crafting any kind of song, in my opinion.
Up next, Exit Scott, Interlude.
Around in and out my thoughtaways, you would never have to ask, why do you love me?
Whoever's quote that they took basically was saying, you wouldn't be asking, why do you love me, if you're actually in my brain. Like, you wouldn't be so insecure is what I'm assuming, is what he's saying. Ended kind of grand. It felt like a choir was singing. I don't know if it was one woman's voice, like layered, but it sounded really grand.
Up next, The Sound of Rain. Started off funky.
I like her instrumentation so far. There's times where it sounds busy, but for the most part, it sounds very spread out. Like every instrument just kind of like pokes in here and there. Like here, you'll hear a bass come in, and then all of a sudden it has this really weird delay effect going on in the keys. It's allowing these instruments to breathe a little bit, and in that space, and you can kind of get lost in it. I really like what's going on the music side of things. There's like a lot of different changes going on. There's like these really bright keys that are coming in, and her flow, man, is really interesting. It's fast paced, and then she'll just break out with like singing.
Swing on the way,
Just really really appreciative of the production going on here. They have like this bass like kicking in out of nowhere. It sounds really dirty, contrasting with her beautiful singing. The way that she's singing Swinging on Them Days is really catchy.
I really like that song. That's probably gonna be one of my favorites. I can see myself listening to that after this and like just like listening to it in my car and cruising. It was really catchy. Up next, Not Screwed, Interlude.
Not screwed.
Okay.
There really wasn't anything going on in that interlude, so I mean, we're just gonna skip to the next song, I'm a Witness. It should be said, I mean, this is like the last song. It's definitely coming off like an outro, very slow paced. She's found somebody. She's saying, I'll be your vessel every time.
Oh man. When that bass dropped right there, I thought we were gonna go somewhere for like 5 seconds, but we didn't. For me personally, I didn't like the way it ended. I feel like it was getting a little too holy there. You know, we're taking on the light. Yeah.
Right.
I might have just cracked some of your guys' phone screens. It wasn't for me. Not that last part.
No, I agree. It wasn't my taste either. My least favorite parts on the album is kind of when there's just a bed of music. She has this freedom to just go and, you know, sing loosely these beautiful lyrics or whatever. These kind, usually they're romantic or they have some kind of emotional sentiment behind them, but they're, you know, kind of repetitive, or the melodies are just not that intriguing. You know, they're just kind of loose, and they're more for people who really enjoy the more R&B side of the music, like, you know, who just really want to hear a beautiful singer sing over some beautiful soft melodies. It just didn't have enough rhythmic elements for me to find it intriguing. Alright guys, this is final thoughts where we give our track highlights and we give the album a rating. So what are your favorite tracks?
I'm gonna start with Way to the Show, Stay Flow, Dreams, Jerrod or Jerrod, I'm not quite sure. Binz, Sound of Rain. Also, My Skin, My Logo.
My favorite tracks are Way to the Show, Stay Flow, All Meta, and Binz. I think are probably my favorite tracks. I might be missing one or two. It was a long album, okay? So I'm just looking at the track listing and doing it right off the top of my noggin. If you had to give the album an out of 10, what would you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a higher score. I'm giving it an 8.2 out of 10. There was a lot of musical elements in it that I actually really enjoyed. I really appreciated the attention to detail as the album progressed, and each of the individual songs, I did feel a lot of emotion coming from this album. The features weren't fantastic, I will say. I think Solange by herself kind of carried her own album, though the features did add some accents to those songs. For the most part, this was a showcase of her musical and singing ability. The songs are fairly well crafted. They're kind of complex in a sneaky way. As each individual song developed, there was a lot of, like, there's outros and a lot of melodic change-ups happening. It would have gotten an even higher score, but there were certain parts that I just kind of felt like dragged down a little too long for me.
For me personally, I feel like it had like 3 too many interludes that it didn't need.
Yeah.
And I just kind of felt like it took away from my listening experience. There's 5 interludes and an intermission.
Yeah, no, it's fair to say that there was a lot of breakups in this album that you can definitely argue that were unnecessary. They didn't, I mean, I'm not a big fan of interludes anyways. You're talking to a guy who doesn't like interludes.
Yeah.
I don't like skits before songs. I don't like skits in general. Like, I'm more of like, just give me the music. I'm a music person.
And like her interludes are only a few seconds, but like it still breaks up the album.
Yeah, no, I don't even disagree with that.
I feel like that's why I just gave it a little bit of a lower score, but it's between a 7.5 and an 8.
It should also be said that all these songs, because of the pacing and because of the type of songs they are, you might not even gain full appreciation for them on the first listen. This wasn't like banger after banger or anything like where you're just like, oh my god, did you hear that? It was definitely something that you'd have to take in and soak in a little bit. That's going to be it, guys. If you like these music reaction videos, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that like button.
Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at hearditnow.
Please let us know what you thought of this album and let us know what we should react to next down in that comment section.
All right, that's going to be it, everybody. Bye.